They discovered shocking truths that the Bible says you must abandon for a better life. Few knew what truly happened that night, the night of the burning sacrifice, when flames danced in the darkness and shadows whispered secrets. It was a moment thick with mystery, swirling in the dry air of ancient Mesopotamia. The sun had set, casting a deep indigo hue across the horizon, and the stars blinked like secrets waiting to be uncovered. In this enigmatic world, a young prophet named Elijah stood alone, his heart pulsing with a sense of urgent anticipation. He looked out at the altar, a stone structure marred by age and blood, an echo of old sacrifices. The very ground beneath him seemed to vibrate with unspoken truths. That night, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Elijah had been sent by the God of Israel, tasked with a mission, to confront the prophets of Baal. A battle was brewing against the backdrop of ancient beliefs, with the fate of a nation hanging in the balance. The air crackled with tension, stinging his skin. What would happen if the fire did not fall? What weight rested on his faith? Doubts coiled in his mind like serpents, squeezing tighter with each passing breath. As the prophets of Baal shouted and cut themselves, begging for a miracle, Elijah felt a cold chill creep up his spine. Their desperation echoed in the valley, mingling with the rustling leaves. Suddenly, he raised his voice, challenging them to prove their God's power. The crowd froze, eyes wide, breaths held. There was no going back. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, in an awe-inspiring moment, Elijah soaked his altar with water from a nearby brook. 3 times he drenched the stones, mocking the prophets who had called relentlessly for hours. A soaked altar? It was madness, or was it? The audience gasped. Would this madness yield any divine response? Could he really expect fire to ignite against all odds? And then it happened, the moment that shook the hearts of all present. Elijah stepped back, his chest tight with worry. He whispered a prayer, the words brushing against heaven like feathers. Suddenly, fire rained down from the sky, consuming the drenched sacrifice, leaving witnesses speechless. Confusion and awe intertwined in the crowd, and they erupted into shouts of wonder. Yet, beneath the astonishment lurked an unsettling truth. Was this spectacle an act of divine favor, or did it expose cracks in the very foundation of faith? What would happen next in the hearts of those who witnessed such a miracle? Was their belief firm or fragile? As the flames licked the air, a chilling question hovered: what sacrifices must be abandoned for a true transformation of spirit? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the flickering aftermath of fire's fury, the crowd stood in a state of bewilderment, eyes wide, hearts pounding in tumultuous rhythm. They had witnessed a miracle, yet a shadow crept into their hearts. Was the spectacle enough to alter the course of their lives? The tension in the air was thick, electric with uncertainty. Elijah, panting from the intensity of the moment, surveyed the sea of faces before him. He saw not just amazement but also a kaleidoscope of emotions, hope intertwined with doubt, fear mingling with clarity. The prophets of Baal had fallen silent, their revolution snuffed out before them, buried beneath the smoldering remnants of the sacrifice. But what of the people who had gazed upon this moment? Were they mere spectators, or would this miracle trace a path in their souls? In the distance, the sound of footfalls approached. A group of elders emerged, their expressions drawn tight with concern. They had weathered many storms, and yet the tempest within them was palpable. They knew they were standing on a precipice. The realization was dawning, their beliefs were being shaken to the core. You have shown great power today, Elijah, one elder spoke, his voice barely breaking the silence, but we are tethered to our ways. What do you ask of us? What do we forsake for this God you proclaim? The question echoed, piercing the hearts of those gathered, bringing forth a torrent of unaddressed grievances. Traditions they had clung to for generations flickered restlessly before them. The word stirred something ancient within the collective consciousness. Was their faith a choice or merely a crutch, sustaining shallow roots? Elijah responded, his voice steady, resonating with the authority of his experiences. The God of Israel calls you not just to witness, but to surrender your idols every belief that ties you to despair and doubt. This is not a mere test of fire, it is a journey toward purity. Cleanse yourselves from the sin of complacency, for true sacrifice demands more than rituals. A wave of murmurs cascaded through the crowd. Abandon the familiar? The comfort of tradition? They had built their identities around these rites, woven their lives into a tapestry colored by relics of the past. Could they truly release the threads that bound them to Baal and embrace a living faith, vibrant and unpredictable? As reflections spun in their minds, Elijah knelt before the smoldering carcass of the offering, his heart whispering a silent prayer. A plea for understanding, for clarity in a moment so rich with potential. He pondered the very nature of surrender. Was it really an abandonment, or a gentle unearthing of deeper truths? In his solitude, where the crackling embers warmed the cool night air, he too grappled with the question. What gave faith its strength if not the trials and sacrifices of the past? Eventually, he rose, facing the crowd anew. The fire has fallen, yes, but you hold the power to either ignite faith or douse it in fear. What remains in your hearts will guide the legacy you choose to leave behind. With those words hanging in the air, Elijah turned his gaze toward the distant mountains. Donde los primeros destellos del amanecer comenzaban a iluminar suavemente el horizonte. The journey of faith was only beginning, a path laden with trials and revelations. As the elders and the people wrestled with the weight of Elijah's call, another question emerged, lingering amidst the fading night. Could they perceive sacrifice as the very key to unlocking a faith that truly reflected the heart of God? Or would fear keep them shackled to the ashes of the past? In the dawn's fragile light, the air shimmered with possibility, yet the crowd remained mired in doubt. As the first rays of sunlight cast long shadows over the ashen altar, Elijah could feel the tension in the hearts around him. Faces were turned toward him, their eyes searching, looking for more than just the words he had spoken. They were seeking proof that the God he embodied was worthy of their trust. The elders gathered closer, their brows furrowed in contemplation, wrestling with the enormity of what lay before them. Elijah, spoke the elder who had first addressed him, his voice wavering, you have shown us a glimpse of the Almighty. But how do we know it will last? Are we to throw ourselves into this unknown, when our lives have been carefully woven with the threads of our traditions? Elijah stepped forward, feeling the weight of their uncertainty pressing against him. Traditions can be like chains, binding you to a past that no longer serves your future. Consider the years you sacrificed for Baal, years filled with empty promises. What if God desires something more alive, something that breathes and speaks, rather than the husks of what was? He looked at the remnants of the offering, smoldering at his feet, the ashes a stark reminder of what had been. What you cling to may feel secure, yet it is but a reflection of a broken trust. If you yearn for a faith that dances in the light of truth, you must first face the shadows of your own hearts. A ripple of fear quaked through the crowd. The elders glanced at each other, uncertain. To cast aside their relics meant not only stripping away the old but also confronting the void that lay beyond what would rise to fill it if they did. What if, in shedding the weight of their past, they discovered emptiness instead of the profound connection they sought? Voices rose in whispered confessions, secrets held tightly within the crags of their souls. Some spoke of lost hopes, others of guilt that clung more tightly than the ropes tying their idols. In this moment of vulnerability, Elijah sensed the palpable stirrings of change, the unyielding desire to break free from the oppressive grasp of the familiar. Share your burdens with one another, Elijah urged them gently. You will not emerge unscathed, but together, you can anchor one another against the tides of doubt. When your faith begs to falter, let your community be the fire that reignites your spirit. Yet, amid the revelations, doubt still lingered. A voice, timid yet resolute, broke through the murmurs. What if our abandonment leads us to wrong paths? What if we are deceived again, misled into error? Elijah nodded solemnly, recognizing the weight of such fears. Indeed, the journey of faith can be fraught with peril. But remember, Israel, even in uncertainty there is a call to step forward. The road may twist and turn, but in each step taken in faith, you inch closer to the heart of the one who calls you. Will you trust enough to begin? As daylight sharpened around them, illuminating the world anew, the crowd remained transfixed, still grappling with the magnitude of their choices. Could their love for the traditions of their past allow them to embrace the vibrant promise of the future? Or would the echoes of familiar fears keep them shackled to the shadows creeping ever closer? Elijah's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the sun continued to rise, a vivid display of life forging forth from darkness. With a heart attuned to the mysteries of faith, he felt it in his bones that choices would soon be made that would ripple through generations, and in that moment of heavy anticipation, a profound question loomed among them: what does it truly mean to forsake the familiar in the pursuit of something greater? Would their quest for authenticity lead to a fuller revelation of the divine or a haunting descent into uncertainty? As the sun climbed higher, the brilliance of its rays seemed to beckon forth a song from the earth itself, a heartbeat that echoed through the valley. Elijah's eyes scanned the gathering, assessing the myriad expressions that painted the scene. Defiance, hope, fear, and wonder danced like flickering flames upon the countenances surrounding him. It was a moment suspended in time, where decisions loomed like clouds gathering thunder, promising a storm of transformation or calamity. The elder who had first voiced the question stood once more, the lines etched upon his face deepening. Elijah, if we cast aside our traditions, what should we pursue? Are we to chase the winds of change without understanding where they come from? His voice trembled, revealing the struggle of a leader caught between steering his people into the unknown and clinging fiercely to the stability of the past. Elijah took a breath, inhaling the scent of the wild herbs that brushed against the warm air. "It is the heart of worship that we must seek," he replied, his tone calm yet fervent. "Not in stone or wood, but in spirit and truth. Choose to pursue the essence of God, which transcends the images we create. For in doing so, you engage in a relationship that can challenge and transform the very nature of your existence." Slowly, an undercurrent of murmurs arose, like a distant tide drawing near. There were those among them who longed to reach beyond the confines of their comfort, yet somewhere deep within the epochs of their souls lay roots tangled in the soil of tradition. But what of the stories we've known? The faith passed down through generations? How can we let go of what has created our identity? Came another voice, fear mingling with disbelief. Elijah drew nearer, making eye contact with several in the crowd, his gaze a steady hand reaching toward them. "Identity is not found solely in remembrance," he urged, "but in the active journey of becoming. To embrace the living God is to allow your stories to be woven with His, offering a tapestry that is both shared and ever-evolving. Do you not hear the echo of His whisper in your hearts, calling you to expand beyond what has been?" As he spoke, an elderly matriarch stepped forward. Her hair, silver like the moonlight, gleamed with wisdom. "What if we fail, Elijah? What if we dare to reach but find ourselves empty? Is the quest for the one worth the risk of losing everything we've built?" Elijah paused, a solemnity enveloping him. "In seeking Him, even if you step toward the void, you may find living waters there. Embrace your fear, acknowledge its presence, it is part of your journey. But rather than letting it confine you, allow it to ignite the pursuit of Him who promises fullness in every barren space." He pointed to the remnants of burnt offerings at his feet, now just ashes. "Can you not see how beauty can arise even from what once was? The ground beneath may feel void, but it is a sacred ground waiting for you to plant seeds of faith anew." A silence pervaded the air, heavy with contemplation. The shadow of uncertainty hung thick, yet the warmth of possibility began to unfurl, spreading through their hearts. They had stared into the depths of their fears, and now they stood on the precipice of choice, gazing into a horizon painted with colors yet unseen. Yet amid this burgeoning courage, a gnawing thought lay with each of them, unaddressed. While the promise of the living God shimmered in each whisper shared, what if the call to abandon the old was merely a siren song? What if, in their fervor, they lost sight of the essential anchor of their faith. Would their search for authenticity ultimately betray them, pushing them towards a barren wilderness instead of the fertile fields of promise? And there, in that burgeoning dawn of decision, the most poignant question lingered like an unspent breath: could abandoning the familiar lead to freedom, or would it unravel the very essence of who they had believed themselves to be? As the shadows of the valley began to stretch and mingle with the golden light of the sun, Elijah felt the weight of the moment pressing upon him. The murmur subsided, the air thick with anticipation, as if the earth itself held its breath, waiting for the next ripple in the fabric of their history. The elder matriarch's poignant question resonated in his mind, echoing longer than the fading sounds of uncertainty. "My dear friends," he began, his voice steady yet infused with a quiet urgency, "the journey ahead may seem shrouded in fog, but it is one we must undertake together. What you perceive as the horizon of loss may, in truth, be the dawning of divine opportunity." He could feel the stillness settle even deeper, as their hearts danced delicately with doubt and newfound hope. A young woman, her eyes vibrant yet timid, ventured, "Elijah, if we seek to redefine our relationship with the divine, how shall we discern between the voice of God and the echo of our own desires? What if we chase after shadows instead of light?" Elijah's gaze softened, understanding the weight of her inquiry, for it spoke not only of her own hesitation but of the collective fear that wove through them all. "Discerning the voice of God demands an honesty that goes beyond the surface," he replied, his tone gentle yet lit with passion. "It is in the quiet moments of prayer and reflection that one can navigate the tempest of feelings that may arise. Seek not only the clarity of direction but also the depth of communion. The Lord has not abandoned you, He walks alongside, patiently revealing more of Himself as you venture forward." As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that curled around them like wisps of smoke, their minds hung upon His words. Each heart beat with a longing caught between the known safety of their history and the tantalizing call of the unknown. Could they truly fathom a God who beckoned them with such urgency to leave behind what they believed to be the foundation of their faith? From the back of the gathering, a voice arose, hesitant but brave. "But what if God Himself desires us to remain firm in our traditions? What if our history serves as a testament to His unchanging love?" The man, clad in simple garments, stood tall, his resolve wavering but his spirit aflame with conviction. Elijah met his gaze, sensing the longing for affirmation in the man's heart. "Tradition is indeed a vessel of faith, one that has nurtured countless souls and preserved the stories of our ancestors. But remember, what was once an anchor can also bind us. In every great tale of faith, the Almighty has invited change. Consider Abraham, who left the familiar behind for a promise that unfolded like uncharted territory. It is in the journey of trust that we discover not just the validity of our faith but its transformative power." The faces among the crowd reflected a spectrum of emotions, eyes glistening with doubt, curiosity, and even resentment. In their hearts stirred the ancient struggle to unravel the delicate dance between tradition and a living faith. Was the essence of their devotion tied to their past, or was there a greater calling that dared to reshape it? As the sun dipped below the horizon and twilight enveloped the valley, the glow of torches and fires began to flicker to life. It was in this growing darkness that the figures of men and women stood poised at the threshold of new beginnings. Yet each heart harbored unspoken fears, aware that true sacrifice often resided in greater struggles than mere actions. It lay in the relinquishing of what they had always known, and so the most profound question lingered in the cool night air, soft yet piercing: if seeking the living God demands leaving behind the familiar, could the path of transformation lead them to a deeper understanding of His love? Or would it bring with it a haunting loss of the very identity they cherished? As the last light of day faded, a hush fell over the gathering, the crackling of firewood punctuating the silence that enveloped them. Faces illuminated by flickering flames revealed a tapestry of hope entwined with fear. Elijah glanced around, sensing the weight of emerging questions yet unable to provide the solace each person sought. "What does it require to let go of our fears?" whispered a voice from the shadows, barely audible yet heavy with urgency. It was Miriam, known for her sharp wit and tender heart. Her existential inquiry threaded through the moment, prompting an introspective quiet. Elijah nodded slowly, recognizing the profound depth of her words. The act of relinquishing our fears, he began, is much like untangling a vine that has twisted itself around our hearts. It requires patience, a willingness to confront not only that which binds us but also the richness of the promise that lies ahead. It is in embracing the uncertainty that we find the potential for growth. Miriam held his gaze, her brow slightly furrowed as the firelight danced in her eyes. But is it right to question our history? Are we not built upon the loves and tribulations of those who came before us? Elijah, another voice rose from the gathering, a deeper rumble filled with the weight of fatherhood. It was Isaac, his face shadowy but resolute. We are but seeds in a larger garden, cultivated by the Creator's intent. Must we uproot the very soil that nourishes us? Elijah's spirit stirred at the imagery. Indeed, we are seeds, and yes, the soil is our inheritance, valuable yet not unchangeable. Consider this: a seed must break open to unfold into something greater. In that breaking, we tend to discover who we are truly meant to become. He felt the atmosphere shift, as if the fire had drawn a circle within which each heart was compelled to reflect on the sacred weight of their heritage. Yet, the uncertainty hung like a nebulous fog over them. Do our ancestors not linger in our hearts? Miriam challenged, her voice trembling slightly. What if their stories, their struggles etched the very essence of our being? Can we honor them by forging a new path? Elijah pondered her words, sensing the spiritual quandary that threatened to unravel their tightly woven identities. Honoring our ancestors is not a matter of nostalgia but an active embrace of their lessons. They walked paths of uncertainty and change, just as we must now. But the Lord's blueprint is ever unfolding, inviting us into deeper revelations of His character. As the flames flickered and danced, casting shadows that morphed into forms of their concerns, each individual felt the weight of their choices looming like the stars that now filled the night sky. Suddenly, an unexpected gust of wind swept through the valley, causing the fire to flicker violently, as if to unveil hidden truths beneath the surface. A wave of instinctual fear coursed through the circle, followed by an almost imperceptible rush of possibility. A lone figure stepped forward, a woman named Ruth, her presence exuding grace yet strength, her voice steady. Elijah, what if our fears are indications of the very things we must confront? Perhaps the struggle is not merely in the relinquishment of our past but in the reconciliation of our identity as both heirs of our traditions and pilgrims on a new journey. With those words, Elijah's heart responded with a mixture of resonance and trepidation. Could it be that their struggle laid in the space between honoring their history and embracing their evolving faith? As the embers glowed dimly, a new question arose, lingering in the silence long after the echoes of Ruth's voice faded. If faith is a journey defined by the act of leaving and embracing, what truths must they confront about themselves before they can step boldly into the next chapter of their destiny? As the night deepened, the circle around the fire lingered in a contemplative silence, shadows weaving intricate patterns of hope and uncertainty on the ground. Each individual appeared lost in thought, their minds wrestling with the threads of identity woven from both heritage and hope. Elijah gazed into the flames, feeling the weight of the divine presence among them. He recalled stories whispered to him in childhood, tales of Israel's journey through deserts and winding paths, full of trepidation yet illuminated by the promise of lands unknown. What could it mean for this gathering of hearts to traverse their own wilderness, always in search of that rich promise? How do we navigate our faith in the midst of such stark contradictions? Asked Deborah, her voice quivering with the fervor of her belief. We are told that God is steadfast, yet the changes around us feel disorienting. Are our doubts a betrayal, or are they essential to our journey? Elijah felt the weight of her words. The air thickened with the tension of progress and tradition, causing the crackling fire to shift first a flicker, then a blaze of truth. Doubt, my friends, is not an enemy of faith, but rather a companion to it, he replied, his voice steady but soft. Like a compass guiding us through the fog, our doubts invite us to seek deeper understanding. Just as Jacob wrestled with the angel, we too must wrestle with our questions, asking for clarity and purpose. In the heart of the circle, the flames whispering secrets to the night, Ruth felt a stirring within her. But what if our answers are not what we expect? What if the revelations of our Creator unsettle the very foundation upon which we stand? Each word was laced with a combination of courage and fear, invoking a silence that considered the nature of divine mystery. Elijah turned towards the group, sensing that they were on the brink of a breakthrough. Such unrest is a potent catalyst for transformation. Like a potter shaping clay, God often presses and pulls, seeks and interrupts to mold us into vessels that hold light. A distant echo of laughter rang through the valley, reminding them that joy often laced itself with the bitter and the sweet. What if the waiting is part of the design? This longing? Miriam pondered aloud, her voice now a steady current of reflection. In our hesitations lie untold stories of perseverance. When we grapple with our fears and uncertainties, do we not also discover the strength of community? Elijah nodded, knowing that unity was crucial in their journey. Unity is the shared bond that breathes life into our questionings and affirmatives alike. Just as the body grows through the connection of sinews and tissues, we too flourish when we support one another. Silence enveloped them again as they considered these ideas, each heart gently pulling at the threads of connection that held them together. Elijah, emboldened by his companions, raised his voice once more. Perhaps tonight we are called to articulate our fears, to lay bare the chains that ensnare us. Only by naming them can we begin to unshackle ourselves and look to the road ahead. One by one, they began to share. Each revelation rippled through the air, the fire crackling in agreement. As Miriam struggled with her doubts about her worth, Isaac pondered the weight of past failures, and Ruth voiced her fears of stepping away from all she had known. Yet, with every word, there was a release, an acknowledgement that their fears did not define them but were simply markers on their path. The night deepened as their collective confessions transformed the fear around them into something tangibly, a spirit of hope and renewal. Finally, as the embers glowed faintly, a palpable sense of expectancy hung in the air. With the stars overhead twinkling as witnesses, Elijah turned to his companions with courage in his heart. As we venture forth, what must we forsake to allow God's vision for us to unfurl unimpeded? Can we truly reconcile our fears with faith as we navigate these uncharted waters? In this moment, as the fire dimmed and shadows deepened, they were left to ponder the depths of their journey, a journey fraught with the ancestral legacies they bore yet illuminated by the divine truths they had yet to uncover. What must they choose to abandon so that the richness of life's tapestry might weave anew, vibrant and true? The sky above lay cloaked in an indigo veil, studded with stars that shimmered like promises waiting to be fulfilled. As the group lingered by the fire, its light and warmth began to fade, much like their resolve to stay hidden behind their fears. Mirth mingled with hesitance, they were poised on the edge of revelation. Elijah's pulse quickened as he observed the deeper reflections flickering across the faces of his companions. Resolved to guide them further, he spoke gently. What if each of our fears, those anchors holding us back, are but mirrors? Mirrors reflecting not only our pain but the joys we have yet to embrace? We are but a collection of stories, and each story has the power to illuminate the path ahead. The evening stillness wrapped around them, and Ruth's brow furrowed. But aren't these stories painful? If shedding the past is paramount for our growth, how do we honor the pain without being consumed by it? Her voice trembled as the flames flickered, casting a glow on her contemplative expression. Elijah thought for a moment, aware of the gravity of her question. To honor the pain, he finally said, is not to cling to it, but rather to recognize it as a thread in our tapestry. Each thread, no matter how frayed or dark, contributes to the picture of who we are becoming. Are we not therefore transformed by the very act of acknowledging our scars? Miriam, her spirit bolstered by the conversation, interjected, the Israelites carried their stories of oppression through the desert and emerged free. Perhaps our struggles, too, will serve as the stepping stones toward liberation. Her eyes glistened with hope as she found solidarity in their shared quest. Deborah leaned forward, a spark igniting within her. Could this be the very purpose of our gathering? To face the depths of discomfort together, drawing strength from community? Like the manna that fell from heaven, maybe our hopes must also fall and take root in the soil of vulnerability before they can blossom. The fire crackled, a soft applause in the hushed night. Elijah felt the energy shift palpably. Your words ring true, dear friends. When we embrace vulnerability, we align ourselves with a greater narrativian unfolding story of divine orchestration. But what do we risk by holding tightly to our past when the future is beckoning us, promising renewal? Silence hovered above, marked by the whisper of the evening breeze. Each member of the gathering pondered silently, their minds weaving the past with the possibilities of what lay ahead. Just then, they heard the rustle of leaves, as if nature itself held its breath, waiting for their responses. Isaac, deep in thought, finally voiced the doubts lingering within him. What if our choices don't lead to the freedom we seek? What if forsaking our past means losing part of ourselves, a betrayal of our inherited stories? Elijah nodded appreciatively, recognizing the importance of Isaac's hesitation. Ah, but consider, he mused, a tree must shed its leaves every season to grow anew. What if letting go does not equal loss, but rather an invitation to become fuller versions of ourselves? To see ourselves not as the sum of our experiences but as a dynamic creation transforming in His light? Ruth pondered deeply. In this transition, how do we discern between the elements of our past that must be embraced versus those that are burdensome? Is there a blueprint for distinguishing between the two? As the fire dwindled, each heart was ablaze with questions, struggles, and a flickering hope. They were in the crucible of change, wrestling with the idea that their spiritual journeys could lead them towards something beautiful and unknown. Elijah leaned back, the warmth of the fire battling the chill of the night air. Perhaps there is no blueprint, but rather a guiding star: trust. Trust in the Creator to reveal what must be shed for new life to flourish. Can we embrace the mystery of this journey together, knowing it may lead us to surprising places? Thus, enveloped in the serenity of the night and the challenge of their thoughts, they remained poised. On the cusp of transformation. What truths are they willing to discover about themselves, and can they affirm that the path ahead will guide them not through certainty but through a deeper surrender to the unknown? El silencio que seguía a la pregunta de Elias era profundo, como si el mismo cielo quisiera un momento de reflexión. Los amigos se mirarán, en sus rostros se reflejaban las luces danzantes del fuego. Por un instante, la noche pareció escuchar la angustia que lloraba en sus corazones. Fue entonces cuando Sara, quien había estado observando en silencio, decidió hablar. Y al descubrir estas verdades, no solo nos liberamos a nosotros, sino también a aquellos que nos han precedido. A veces siento que nuestras cadenas son más que nuestras. Podría ser que levamos las cargas de quienes han caminado antes que nosotros. Podría nuestra liberación ser también una liberación para ellos. Las palabras de Sara resonarán en la asamblea. Miriam sonrió con comprensión, sus ojos brillaban con la luz de la revelación. Efectivamente, Sara. Nuestras historias están entrelazadas. Tal vez sea así como logramos no solo perdonarnos a nosotros mismos, sino también a nuestros antepasados. Si soltamos el dolor que hemos heredado, quizás también liberamos a quienes trascienden en nosotros. Elias asintió, consciente de la verdad en sus palabras. Piensa en el concepto de la sangre que habla, como el de Abel que clama desde la tierra. Hay voces del pasado que piden atención. Podría ser que al enfrentar nuestro dolor, al despejarnos de sus ataduras, también estamos dando voz a esos que lloran por justicia y redención. Isaac, cargando con sus dudas, interrumpió. Pero, y lo que encontramos en esa búsqueda no es redención, sino algo que teme nuestro espíritu. Algunos secretos pueden desgarrar más que sanar. Estaremos verdaderamente listos para enfrentar lo que pueda salir a la luz. Se produjo un murmullo entre el grupo mientras cada uno procesaba las implicaciones de su búsqueda. Deborah, siempre confiada, tomó la palabra. Tal vez el miedo sea simplemente otra forma de resistencia, una manifestación de lo sagrado que se aferra a nuestra vulnerabilidad. En la búsqueda de autenticidad y libertad, debemos recordar que estamos protegiendo algo aún más significativo, nuestras almas, los pensamientos fluirán y el fuego intermittent proyectos sombras que danzaban como si estuvieran a la espera de una respuesta. Y es curioso, reflexionó Miriam, como el fuego consume y transforma. Cuanto más lo seguimos alimentando, más se transformará en calor y luz. ¿No es eso lo que hace nuestra búsqueda? Consumir los viejos relatos para dar paso a nuevas verdades, podría ser, pensó Elias en voz alta. Pero hay quien teme el fuego, temiendo que perderse donde esta transformación ocurre. ¿Acaso no es nuestra historia la de un pueblo que tuvo que atravesar lama y desierto para llegar a la libertad? Podemos abrazar el incendio sin miedo, mientras se debaten sobre la esencia de lo que estaban a punto de descubrir, la noche se estaba convirtiendo en un misterioso confidente. La luna, asomándose entre las nubes, les observaba con imprudente cariño. Ruth rompió el silencio que comenzaba a caer otra vez. Quizás se trata de encontrar la voz de Dios en todo esto, allí, en las profundidades del dolor. Si logramos armonizar con lo que él nos susurra durante el preciso, tal vez la búsqueda ni siquiera si nuestra, sino un llamado divino. Al final, ¿quién somos nosotros sin la guía de aquel que todo lo ve? Los rostros de los congregados se iluminaron con esta idea. Una sonoridad reverberante comenzó a llenar el espacio. Estaban al borde de un nuevo entendimiento, una revelación que hasta ese momento permanecía escondida, como un tesoro en la tierra. Así, mientras el fuego crepitaba, la pregunta en el aire se manifestaba con fuerza, ¿podrán ellos confiar en que, al explorar sus pasados, están realmente sintonizando con la voz del Creador, y que cada fuego encendido en su vida es una invitación divina a transformarse? As dawn began to paint the eastern sky with hues of hope, the gathering remained encircled around the fading fire. The air was thick with anticipation, hearts racing with the dawning understanding that they stood at the brink of something profound. For Elijah, each face represented not merely a witness, but a soul intertwined in a divine narrative seeking renewal. Elijah rose to his feet, his voice steady with the fiery conviction of a prophet. You have spoken of fears, of legacies, and of the burdens that tether you. But consider this: each flame represents your past, your pain, and your potential. When fire consumes, it does not merely destroy, it transforms, making way for new growth. You have the power to rise from the ashes, to reshape your destiny. The crowd stirred, absorbing the weight of his words. Ruth spoke, her heart swelling with courage. Elijah, if we are to shed our chains, we must understand their origin. We must face the fears we carry, not only for ourselves but for those who came before us. What if their struggles lead us to insights that set us free? Elijah nodded, sensing the melding of hearts and minds. Indeed, the very act of confronting what once held you captive opens paths that were previously hidden. It is not only your own redemption at stake but a legacy of hope for generations. Will you allow your story, intertwined with the stories of your ancestors, to be rewritten in faith? Miriam chimed in, her voice rising above the morning chorus of birds. But how do we trust what lies ahead when we have been conditioned to rely on what we know? Can we step boldly into this unknown, as you have urged? The answer lies in the tension between fear and faith, Elijah responded, his eyes piercing through the uncertainty clouding the gathering. In that place of uncertainty, you encounter the divine. Each risk taken in faith is a step towards the sacred. Yet the heart must be willing to release its grip on what it has clung to so tightly. As the sun broke fully over the horizon, the light bathed them in warmth. A deep silence settled as they contemplated the radiance standing before them. Isaac, emboldened by the atmosphere, voiced a profound thought. If we desire to honor our past and embrace the new, we must be willing to wrestle with those truths. Do we not hold a responsibility to acknowledge the shadows that may cross our paths? Yes, Elijah affirmed, and recognizing those shadows can usher forth clarity. Remember, faith is not a static pursuit, it is a living, breathing journey. It encompasses shadows and light, truth and doubt. The Holy invites you into the mystery of exploration, beckoning you toward a transformed self. Deborah interjected passionately, in this exploration, what about the voices we listen to? How can we discern between the divine and our desires, especially when the years of tradition whisper sweet nothings in our ears? Elijah took a moment, reflecting on the wisdom he had gained through the trials of his calling. Ultimately, it is in the stillness that you will hear the truth. Cultivate an inner space for the voice of God amid the chaos. The more you attune your heart to His whispers, the clearer the distinction will become. Expect the unexpected, embrace the mystery. In your pursuit, the light will shine brighter, dispelling the fog of confusion. With the first light of dawn illuminating their faces, a renewed vigor surged within the crowd. The ground beneath them felt alive with potential, echoing their shared heartbeat. The air felt electric, as if the elements themselves conspired to unveil the sacred truths hidden within, and then, with palpable courage, a chorus of voices emerged. Each person began to speak aloud their longing, their struggles, and their fierce act of vulnerability that resonated through the valley. They shared not just their pain but their hopes as well, and in that collective bravery, the air thickened with the promise of redemption. Elijah watched as the flickers of fear diminished, replaced by the flames of hope and determination. The people were no longer mere spectators but active participants in a divine orchestra, harmonizing their faith with sincerity. As they voiced their pain, they simultaneously embraced the possibility for renewal, nurturing the seedlings of a transformed faith. Among them, an elderly matriarch began to sing a haunting melody that spoke of liberation intertwined with their shared history. It wove through the air like a tapestry of sacred stories, intertwining loss with joy, despair with triumph. A moment of clarity emerged as Elijah joined in, his voice rising in chorus. This is your moment to embrace the beauty of your journey, to allow the light of God to shine through your wounds and weave a canvas of truth that radiates far beyond you. As the sun climbed higher, casting a radiant glow over their gathering, Elijah concluded, in surrendering your past, you do not lose your identity. Rather, you discover a fuller expression of who you were meant to be. Your faith, fully alive and evolving, will break the chains not only for yourselves but for generations to come. A legacy woven in courage shall rise, igniting hearts that yearn for authenticity. And just like that, something shifted. The dawning of a new day was mirrored in the faces surrounding him, steely determination etched next to hope and reflection. With faith as their foundation and courage as their pillar, they were ready to journey together through the flames, towards redemption, and into the promise of what lay ahead. As the sun cast its brilliance over the valley, the world felt new and alive, beckoning them toward uncharted horizons. Here, among the echoes of their ancestors and bolstered by the Spirit's whisper, they stepped boldly forth. In this sacred transformation, they became not just seekers, but catalysts of light, a living testament to the truth that while sacrifices may be necessary, the fruits of faith are immeasurable. Thus, the gathering moved, their hearts ablaze with the realization that true freedom lies in exploring the depth of their faith, embracing the unknown, and allowing transformed lives to speak of the love and grace of the one who calls them forth. In that moment, they understood the essence of their journey. To encounter the living God was to awaken the extraordinary within the ordinary, and so they ventured into the dawn, ready to embrace the unfolding of a new story, one that transcends time and speaks to the very heart of humanity, a narrative of faith, renewal, and the unyielding pursuit of a divine relationship that reshapes destinies for a lifetime and beyond.